What's up, world? We're back like we never left for episode 12 of the One-on-One podcast on the Field of 12 Media Network presented by Bet River SportsBook. I'm HD, Harry Douglas, that's C, also known as Coty Sensabaugh. Big Coty, man, it happened again. 2 top 10 teams lost this weekend.
Yes,
but
sir.
my question is for me, but did anybody else separate themselves? But outside of who? Who you think?
Outside of Georgia.
There you go. outside of Georgia, hell no. Nobody else separated themselves.
Yes,
and the first team I actually want to start with, Coty, is Michigan State. Michigan State lost to Purdue this weekend. And when you was watching that game, what were some of the things that stood out to you, Coty?
I think Michigan State's poor pass defense, it finally came to haunt them. I think that's something that they've been struggling with all year, and it came full circle. And Purdue is a damn good team, man. O'Connell had a great game, 536 yards. That guy Bell, who you've been talking about for a couple weeks, 217 receiving yards. He had a hell of a game. Outside of Kenny Walker, I know he had the one fumble, and I think they said that was his first lost fumble all year. He only had 1 touchdown, I think, but he still ran for over 100 yards. But it was surprising to see, man. I thought Michigan State had kind of turned the corner, but Purdue, man, they still running trick plays. I like what the coach said. He found that trick play from a high school team on YouTube. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I think that just shows his creativeness, because anybody who's been watching Purdue knows that they run trick plays and they've been executing them at a high clip. And also the Mackey guy, the corner that had the pick in the end zone, as a DB, that was a beautiful play to see, because in the red zone, the DB can't back up.
No.
And a lot of DBs will, for whatever reason, let the receivers getting off the line scare them into backing up real fast. And before you know it, the receiver just turns around because they're in the end zone and it's a touchdown. But the way he stayed flat-footed and drove on the ball, and he beat the receiver back down the stem on the out route.
Which is a rule for us. Do not let the DB beat you to the ball.
Tell me how you feel about it, because you've actually seen them in person, and I know you've been high on them and their environment because you was up there a few weeks ago.
Well, I'll tell you, going into this football game, if it was one thing I was worried about, it was the pass defense of Michigan State. I recently went to the Michigan State-Michigan game, and that was one of the things that Michigan's offense exploited. And Michigan is a run-first football team at that. So they exploited the middle of the field. They exploited the secondary, the back-end guys. And one of the things I've seen on film from their secondary is that they lack team speed when it comes to their secondary as well. And going into this game, so the head coach of Purdue, Jeff Brom, is somebody I know very, very well. He was the quarterback's coach at Louisville when I was there, and his brother, who was the offensive coordinator, was my quarterback. And I was lucky enough to have him on one of my ESPN shows after they beat Iowa. And I asked him, before we even came on the show, I asked him this off there. I was like, hey, did you think they were going to double David Bell, Iowa? And he said, yes. I thought they were going to double him because on film they showed doubling other receivers from other teams, but they did not double him. And David Bell against Iowa went for 200 plus in a touchdown, maybe 2 touchdowns, but I know it was at least 1.
He went crazy. We know that.
So coming into this game versus Michigan State, I said, okay, there's no way in hell that Michigan State is going to come into this football game and not double David Bell. If I'm not mistaken, I think David Bell is leading the Big Ten in receiving yards right now.
And I don't think it's close either. I don't think it's close.
But I said to myself, there's no way they're going to come into this game and not double David Bell. Well, guess what? They didn't double David Bell. So I'll tell you this. The man only had 11 receptions, 217 yards, and a touchdown. So if you don't want to do what you're supposed to do, then okay, then you're going to end up with an L in your column. And Purdue third downs, man, they were 11 for 18 on third downs. That's efficient.
Yes,
when you could be 11 for 18 on third downs. But then I want to jump to Michigan State, though. This is how I knew it was going to be rocky for Michigan State, and they were going to probably lose this game. They were already on upset alert, right? They beat Michigan, in-state rival, top 10 opponent. Come in, you're going against Purdue, probably feeling yourself a little bit, right? Feeling themselves. Your star player, Kenneth Walker III, fumbles on the first possession. But I'm going to go to a couple plays before that. They had, I think it was 1st and 10, right? So they lined up 2 receivers to the right, 2 receivers to the right. They had a tight end in a wing position on the right as well. They had the back to the left and a single receiver to the boundary. So the slot receiver, it's a play we call indigo. We ran it a lot in Atlanta. He's just going through the middle of the football field trying to get the safety's attention because there's an in cut coming behind him. And for some reason, and I watched this play numerous of times, Michigan State has ran it, they're not running the in cut at the proper depth. The receiver cut, he stuck his foot in the ground at 8 yards and then rolled to like 13 or 14. So what that does for people listening, if you don't cut at 14 and then roll to about 16, 17, 18, it allows you to mess up the timing with the quarterback, number one, because he's taking a drop. Number two, when you're trying to complete balls against a certain defense, there's this thing called windows that quarterbacks are trying to throw in. And defenders are in certain spots for a reason. So it allowed the receiver to get over there too fast, and the quarterback tried to throw it on his back shoulder because he was over there close to the single receiver. He was over there close to other defenders.
Right.
So I'm looking at the play, and I'm saying it literally could have been a touchdown if he plants at 14 yards and rolls up to 16, because he's going to catch that football in a window earlier, and then there's nobody backside. And I remember catching a ball like that against Detroit. We had an option route front side, and I had a seam in. And I was like, dang, the whole time I run, I'm saying, get your depth. Matt Ryan came backside. I came out the back door, and it went for about 40. And I'm looking at that play. Okay, he got them young legs. He about to go score. Right. And I say that because I tell people it's a game of plays. It's a game of inches. They score right there on that play. That's early in the game with like 14 minutes. It may be the first or second, maybe first few plays.
Right.
He scores right there. Number one, the fumble never happens. And then you never know what event's gonna occur after that. But Kenneth Walker III fumble on that drive. Purdue goes down and they score a touchdown. And it's no secret who scored the touchdown. David Bell, the best receiver for Purdue. Not even a coincidence. But then I also seen, okay, Michigan State missed the field goal. And then the star receiver, Jaden Reed, they was down one. Naylor didn't play in the game, but Reed dropped a big play as well. I said, ooh, those 4 things right there are a recipe for disaster. Yes, and this team going down. But the defense couldn't stop Michigan State. O'Connell, like you said, was amazing. Head coach Jeff Brom, who calls the plays, he did a hell of a job dicing up the secondary at Michigan State and getting them into the right plays. So it's kudos to Purdue. And I'll tell you this, Purdue may have the 2 best wins of everybody in the country right now.
Yes, sir.
Number 2, Iowa. Number 3, Michigan State at the time. You can't say anybody else in college football who has 2 solidified wins like that.
Yes, sir. And I think it just goes to show that, like, these teams are overlooking that once you have a certain number beside your name, you're going to get everybody's best shot.
Yeah.
And it's like they come into the game half stepping, like they're not fully prepared. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And it's tough to see. It's unfortunate to see, but kudos to Purdue, man. They look really good.
Yep. And the next game I want to talk about is Ohio State. Ohio State played Nebraska. Now, I'll tell you this. A lot of people probably saying, man, Ohio State struggled with Nebraska. Nebraska?
Their defense is the real deal.
Listen, Nebraska lost to these teams. They lost to Michigan State in overtime. They lost to Michigan in a very, very close one. They lost to Oklahoma by a touchdown. That game was close. God, I'm trying to think. It was one more. Goodness, I can't think of it right now. But they've lost games to opponents that are yes, right. And games that they could have won. So this was no slouch game for Ohio State, even though Nebraska is not ranked. And I love Ryan Day on the first drive going for it on 4th and 1. right? I love that situation because number one, the tight end Rucker was wide open. He just got to catch the football. Got to catch the football. And it was a damn good job played by that linebacker stripping it out. But then on the following next drive, C.J. Stroud throws an interception on the sideline as Ohio State's going to score. And I'm saying to myself the entire time, and it's a theme with these young QBs. I'm saying to myself the entire time, throw it away, throw it out of bounds. And I understand that they have the best receiving group in the country. It was minus Garrett Wilson in that game, but they got other guys who stepped up. But throw the football away. Live to play another down. Don't give a team like Nebraska any hope, any desire, right? And the penalties for Ohio State for me are killing this offense left and right. Like they're starting 1st and 15, 2nd and 15, 2nd and 20, 3rd and 15. I don't know what you want me to call as a play caller for that. So they're week in and week out killing themselves by pre-snap penalties. And not only that, it is a luxury, though. I'll tell you this. It is a luxury when you're down your star receiver in Garrett Wilson. But then your third receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba, goes for 240 yards and a touchdown. I don't. Who else in the country has that luxury? Nobody. And then you got Marvin Harrison's son coming off the bench. Like it's crazy.
Nebraska coaches, like at some point you have to double that guy. 240. That's crazy. But even though I know the committee and the fans will probably be down on Ohio State because it wasn't an impressive win, it still was a win.
Yeah.
And you have to give them credit because being completely honest, no one in college football has had pretty wins this year except Georgia. And the way this college football playoff is looking, no telling who's going to be in it. So the best thing you can do is just win out. Whether it's ugly or pretty, just win. But it was good to see Ohio State pulled out. And I want to give credit to Martinez from Nebraska. I didn't know he had been playing with a broken jaw for however long now, man. He's a dog. So just the fact that I've never had a broken jaw, but I've been hitting my jaw before. You know what I'm saying? I think we all have, and we know what that feels like. But the fact that he decided to put off surgery until the end of the year to continue to fight with his brothers, man, that says a lot about that dude. And
says a lot about him. I think Treyvion Henderson, the running back for Ohio State, man, is the unsung hero for this team. I'm gonna say it week in and week out. He did it in a run game. He did it in a pass game, and he's been doing it since he's gotten his opportunity to start. And even in the first game of the year against Minnesota, he showed in the pass game. He took a long screen for the distance, so he showed then. But him for me is going to continue to be the unsung hero for this Ohio State football team, and
where they want to be.
Yeah, and I got to point something else out too. Like C.J. Stroud had a second interception. And it was in a scramble drill, and he was getting pressured, rolling to the right. And I'm saying to myself again, just throw the football away. He tried to throw it in double coverage, got it picked off. It could have cost him because I think at the time they were only up 23-16. So that interception could have cost them. And when I mean cost them, it could have cost them big time. So for y'all young quarterbacks out there, understand every play doesn't have to be a highlight reel. It's okay to live to play another down. You are that good to overcome just throwing the football away and living to play another down. What is hard to overcome?
You got.
Yeah, what's hard to overcome is when the ball gets intercepted, right? And now your defense is in sudden change situation and trying to stop an opponent, because if you're playing a quality offensive opponent, it's gonna come back to hunt you. It's gonna come back to hurt you.
Absolutely.
So young QBs, man, throw the football away when it's time to throw it away. Let me tell you guys a little bit about our partners over at BetRivers Sportsbook. If you haven't signed up with BetRivers yet, now's the time, because they're offering a $250 match bonus for the first deposit. Now, what sets them apart is that they require just one playthrough to turn your bonus into cash money. With their new Rush Pay Instant Approval, withdrawing your winnings is safer, more secure, and most importantly, more reliable. With the football season heating up, get in on the action by going to BetRivers.com today or by downloading the BetRivers iOS app. Remember, you must be 21 years or older. If you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Now I'm gonna move on to another game. It was rivalry week down there in Alabama, LSU, Bama Llama, and I told people before the game, when it's a rivalry game, I don't want to hear nothing about what teams are ranked. I don't care what they did the week before. I don't want to hear none of that. When it's a rivalry game, it's on the line. Everything is on the table. I mean, we seen that, not to brag, but we seen that with my Falcons and the Saints this weekend. Just to rub it in some more for everybody in New Orleans. All my Creole people. We seen that this weekend with the Falcons and the Saints. Y'all thought the Saints were up here, but them birds came down in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. It took you. Oh, I'm sorry. It's not Mercedes-Benz Stadium. The real Mercedes-Benz Superdome is here. It's here. The real one is here. I'm sorry. The Mercedes-Benz Stadium, not Superdome. The real Mercedes-Benz Stadium is here in Atlanta. I'm sorry. Caesars Dome. The Caesars Dome in New Orleans. The Falcons went down to the Caesars Dome and they got a win in the rivalry week. I had to throw it in there. Now back to Alabama, LSU. LSU, I thought LSU defensively, I think they did a hell of a job stopping the run.
They got after Bryce Young too.
Did a hell of a job defensively.
Got after Bryce Young. They got after him.
And what I love about Bryce, man, is like Bryce, he never gets rattled, bro. Like,
yes,
things cannot be going right. He never wavers, but when his number is called, he makes the plays.
Mm-hmm.
Jameson Williams for them. Ooh. Bro, do you realize this man was at Ohio State? If people keep thinking I'm crazy, bro, he transferred to Alabama.
Golly, and they still got the best receiving core in the country.
Yes.
Golly.
He balled. Mechie the third. It was good to see Mechie the third, man, show up and show out as well. But that LSU defense, but Damone Clark, whew, man. Mm-hmm. Damone Clark, and then for Alabama defensively, Will Anderson Jr. Coty, Will Anderson had 12 tackles, 4 TFLs, and 1.5 sacks.
Talking about
man, a dog.
Day.
Man, a dog.
Talking about day.
That defensive Bama created 2 turnovers, but it came down to crucial moments. I think the last 3 or 4 possessions for LSU offensively, that's when the disarray that they've had all year started to show. Because when they needed to get a field goal or needed to punch the ball in the end zone, I think they punted once, got stopped on downs twice. So the continuity wasn't there.
They was going for broke on 4th down.
Oh yeah. But they couldn't listen.
They sold the whole farm.
They couldn't catch a break, boy. If the ball was in the glove,
exactly.
Somebody knocked the ball out the glove.
Exactly.
They couldn't catch a break. But for Bama, I still think Bama is the number 2 team in the country. I like what I've seen from them in adverse situations, though. Adverse situations, even in their loss against Texas A&M, they were down big, but they came back in that game and actually had an opportunity to still win it. A lot of teams would have folded in those moments. So I like what I'm seeing from Bama. I know a lot of people like, oh, but they struggle with LSU. LSU isn't this. Listen, it's a rivalry game. We just see my Falcons.
You got to throw everything out the window when it comes to rivalry.
Coty, we just see my Falcons beat the Saints. I'm sorry, New Orleans, but this is my opportunity. And I will let you know until we play y'all again, the last game of the year. Yep. But my Falcons beat the New Orleans Saints this weekend. Alabama beat LSU in the rivalry game. Oh, Coty, what did you think about this one, man? What did you think about this?
Alabama's O-line is still struggling. Their run game was pretty much non-existent.
Terrible.
Non-existent. Like you said, Bryce Young, he played well. He threw for 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is pretty much been him all year. You know what you're getting out of him. Bama's defense, man, they had 5 sacks, 8 tackles for loss, and 6 passes defended. And when it came nut cutting time, they answered the bell.
What? They was ringing that thing too, ringing that bell.
And I seen Nick Saban say after the game, there was no way in hell we was going to let them score. There was no way we was going to let them score on that last drive. And I think that just speaks to the attitude that their coach has, and the attitude that their players have. But until they get that O-line situation handled, I mean, I think they can and they will beat Auburn, but it's going to be tough if they don't figure out this O-line. They're definitely not going to beat Georgia the way this O-line is playing. So I think they have to really figure out this O-line situation because their defense can play with anybody.
Exactly. And
the quarterback and the receivers can play with anybody. So,
and I love Coach Saban. I like his attitude. And, you know, we have Thanksgiving first and it's almost Christmas. So old Coach St. Nick said he wasn't going to let them boys score. Coach, boy, I love this.
Hell, they was going to let them score.
Listen, I love watching Coach Saban on the sidelines. Like when he be going, even when they do something good, he be, he be amped, man. I like coaches who's into it, though. That lets you know that he's into it. He cares. He wants to win. He wants the guys to do good. You know what I mean? And he's not just going, even when they're up by like 30.
Right.
Not just going to let you go through the motions. He wants you to do it the proper way because it's no telling when you're playing a quality opponent when you're going to have to get shoved in that start lineup and do something.
Absolutely. And I think that's just a testament to his character because no one has won at the college football level like he has.
Nope.
And the fact that he carries himself the way he does and still acts like that to this day, whether they're up 30 or they're up by 2, like that's special, man. Like, and I think that's why Alabama has won at a high level for so long because he demands it every single day.
Now, before we move on to the next topic, I got to say it one more time. My Falcons beat the Saints. For all y'all people down there in Louisiana, New Orleans, I don't care where you're from. If you're a Saints fan, the Falcons right there beat your New Orleans Saints. Now we can move on. Now, Coty, I want to jump into something, man. We talk about Georgia. Georgia's the best team in college football right now. Best team in college football, top to bottom. I want to talk about a game plan to beat Georgia. What's a successful game plan? And for me, when I look at this, I'm thinking an opponent who's playing Georgia, they have to be balanced offensively. They have to be able to change up things and change up the tempo and go tempo if they I think to keep that defensive line on his P's and Q's and try to tire those guys out. Offensively, you got to have a dual threat quarterback, a guy who can escape pressure because there are going to be times where Georgia can get pressure, and you can use that dual threat quarterback in the run game. You must be able to block their front seven consistently because if you can't do that, hell, you don't even stand a chance. You can't turn the ball over. And on special teams, don't think special teams is a unit that you can take plays off because we've seen block punt after block punt by the Georgia punt block unit, their punt return team. So I think that those are some of the recipes and the game plans. If you want to beat Georgia, if you're not able to do a lot of those things, then your chances are slim to none.
You have to find a way to win the explosive play battle because you're not going to be able to drive up and down the field on that team consistently 10 to 12 plays. So you're going to have to hit some home runs. No one's done that to them all year. So that's part of it. And I think you got to pray to God, man. I think you got to pray to God. I think you got to pray to God. I think you got to take. I think you got to take Ohio State's receivers. You got to take Bryce Young or Caleb Williams from Oklahoma. You got to take Kenneth Walker from Michigan State. and who's O-line? I don't know. I don't know who's O-line.
I would say let me see. I would go I would go Boston College O-line isn't bad.
Yeah. And I think
you got some guys who want to play at the next level.
I think as far as defense goes, you have to make their quarterback uncomfortable and you have to create turnovers. And I not only create turnovers, but I think you have to score on defense.
Yeah. I
think you have to score on defense and also give your offense some very, very short fields.
I like that. Sounds like a recipe, y'all. Do y'all want to know what's the game plan? How do you beat Georgia? You heard it from me. You heard it from Coty. Now let's get into these college football playoffs rankings that came out last night. No surprise, number one, Georgia. No surprise, number two, Georgia. A lot of people, Alabama, a lot of people like, why is Alabama number two? They struggle with LSU. Well, did you watch college football? Nobody else separated themselves. Everybody else barely won too. That's why Oregon is at number three. They still have that quality win over Ohio State. Now, that's up a spot because Michigan State lost, and then you see Ohio State jump in at 4. Number 5 is Cincinnati. They're still undefeated. And then this is where I kind of question some things because they had Michigan at 6. Michigan State. You agree with that one?
I said I
didn't. Oh yeah, and then a week like a week ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What the song about a week ago? Then we tweaking about a week ago. About a week ago, they just beat them boys. About a week ago, they just beat them a week ago, and they put them ahead of them, which is weird to me because they valued the head-to-head with Oregon and Ohio State, and then you look further down in the rankings. I believe they had Wisconsin ranked higher than Purdue, if I'm not mistaken. But I think Wisconsin won that head-to-head matchup. Now, it was very convincingly, but they won the head-to-head matchup. So why is the head-to-head matchup important the first weekend with other teams, but not in this instance? And then the reply that was said is because they thought Michigan is a better football team. And I went to scratching my head. I said, well, damn, don't you solve that on the football field?
Exactly.
And they just beat them.
Played already. Right.
Yeah. So that was weird to me. But at the end of the day, I said to myself, okay, it's not really going to matter because if you look at Michigan and Michigan State, they can separate themselves by handling their business. You know, if Michigan State beats the rest of their opponents, then it's not even going to matter. So I didn't waste my time being too upset about it because I said they control their own destiny.
I think the committee got it right besides Michigan and Michigan State.
Yeah.
But man, Cincinnati may sneak in there the way these other teams keep falling, man. They may get a chance. They may get a chance.
They're gonna sneak in there and get beat by 50. Up there struggling with Tulsa.
Hey, they struggled, but they won though. I mean,
but Coty, listen though. This is the crazy thing. Cincinnati's defensive line got bullied by Tulsa. Got bullied. And if it wasn't for the quarterback sliding instead of just diving in the end zone, that game potentially, if they get 2-point conversion, can be going in overtime.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, but why it's a consistent pattern we're seeing, especially the last 3 weeks with the Cincinnati team, with Tulsa, with Tulane, with Navy. Those are 3 opponents. If I'm guessing, you're supposed to steamroll. And I understand that you had Oklahoma struggle with Tulane early in the season, but hey man, you got it right now. When you coming into that, you was ranked 6th and you're trying to impress teams, impress the committee and impress the country. You don't have time to be playing around and just banking on your defense to stop this Tulsa team who's not good in my eyes from scoring a touchdown on the goal line so you can get a win.
Yeah. You need to beat everybody by 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, and I thought this was the perfect week that if they would have steamrolled over Tulsa, they may have been in the 4th spot.
Right, maybe so.
They may have been in the 4th spot.
Maybe so.
But the committee didn't think so by how they played. Now,
I'll tell you one thing. They better, if they're going to do something, they better hurry up because time is ticking.
Oh, yeah. Now, Coty, we got to get to something. We got to get to something that I don't really want to get to. Just to be honest, I don't really want to get to it. But this weekend, me and you made a bet.
Yes, sir.
You went to Clemson. I went to Louisville. And it's going to pain me to say these words. Clemson defeated Louisville this weekend. Clemson defeated Louisville this weekend. And it hurt my heart. And I got to cash app you your dinner money. Just let me know how much your dinner is. And I'll cash app you your money. Because I'm a man of my word. When I make a bet, hey, I pay my debts. I don't play with people like my daddy told me, hey, boy, don't you ever play with nobody money, play with nobody lady, play with nobody kids.
That's right.
When they come to that, pay my debts.
Yeah.
But man, that That game was so crazy, Coty. Like I don't even know where to start because it was just all over the place.
Exactly. It was everywhere. It was everywhere. I think it was Big Cinco's best game of the year. He threw for 220, I think, and 2 touchdowns. But I think the I think the difference for Clemson was they got Justin Ross out of the slot. He's not an inside receiver. I don't know why they took him to. I don't know why it's taken that staff so long to move him outside. But he's an X.
We know why, but we ain't gonna say it today.
Like they've had him in the slot all year, and he hasn't been nowhere near himself.
Yeah.
So I think them moving him outside opened their offense up. And I got to give it up to Bo Collins, Big Cinco's high school teammate. He had a huge game from the slot. He had a touchdown and over 100 yards.
Yep.
And I think that was a difference. The running game was pretty much non-existent. A lot of that had to do with both running backs had got injured, Pace and Shipley. I know Shipley ended up coming back, but the run game was pretty much non-existent. Clemson's defense didn't come to play at all. They couldn't stop water. But when it came nut cutting time, when it came fourth down in the red zone, man, they was hauling ass to get Malik Cunningham down.
Bro, and that's what I want to touch on, man.
They was hauling ass.
Like, out of everything that happened to the game, it basically came down to first and goal at 2-yard line. Louisville had the ball. And I'm saying to myself, okay, Louisville has this football, first and goal at the 2-yard line. Of course they're going to score. And then when they didn't score, I was thinking about over the years, a Clemson defense in those situations.
They rise up.
I remember Georgia Tech this year. I remember a Georgia Tech game from years previous to this year. And Georgia Tech got a turnover. And instead of getting to the end zone, they got tackled on like the 1 or 2. Well, guess what? They got stopped and didn't score. Right? And then I think about the Boston College game with this Clemson defense. They came up big then. But at that moment, I thought Malik on the second, it was either the first or the second play, he had an opportunity to read it and keep it, or when he kept it, he could have passed it off to the back in the flat. The back was wide open. So that was one thing they missed. And then on the fourth down play, I actually love the play. I normally don't like rollouts, but let me tell you why I like that play. So you had a DB guarding the receiver in the slot, then you had a receiver outside with a DB on him. The DBs played in and out, right? They played in and out coverage. And if you're a receiver, this is how you got to start being alert for things and just understanding coverages and understanding everything that can possibly happen. So the route they were running, remember the little route that Hunter Renfrow ran against Alabama to win that championship? So that's what the slot receiver ran, right? Ran a little out route, about 2 or 3 yards out route. Now, the outside receiver, his job is to pick and then go back out towards the back pylon. But if they're playing an in and out coverage, you're no longer worried about the pick. That football has to come to you, right? So instead of coming in and going all the way to the defender and pausing and then trying to go to the corner, I'm going to stop about 2 yards or 2 or 3 yards before I get to that defender and then hit it outside in the corner because I know I'm getting that football. And that's what I mean by these college guys. I want them to start understanding the game better, understanding what the defense is trying to do, understanding the full concept of the play. So you're better off because the receiver still thought that he was picking. Well, the pick is not going to matter anymore because the corner outside is now going to take the slot guy and he's out there waiting on him. So the quarterback can't throw that football. So now he's waiting on you to come and you're trying to get the pick and you're picking for no reason. But still on fourth down, Malik has to throw the ball up. You can't get sacked on fourth down. You have to throw the football up. I'll tell you, Malik in this game, though, boy, he
was electric.
He ran his tail off. He ran his tail off.
That play, that long touchdown he had where he skirted down the sideline. And Clemson's defense is pretty fast, but he looked exactly like Lamar Jackson when he was playing against Clemson on that play. Like, he looked exactly like Lamar, and it was a good game. It was a good game, man.
But I got to give you your props. I got to give Clemson their props. They won. You know how painful this is for me right now. Clemson won, but respect is respect.
Absolutely.
Your team won. I owe you that dinner, and I'm gonna get you that money. And
we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait till you come here.
Oh, come to sure. Okay, bet.
We're gonna wait till you come here. Yes, sir.
Those of y'all that didn't know, man, my wife and his wife know each other. So when we come up to Charlotte, we're gonna kick it, have us a nice little dinner, and it's on me.
Yes, sir.
It's on me, boss.
Yes,
now, the last thing we got to get to with Bet Rivers, we got some numbers going on. The UNC versus Pitt game. That game is
UNC for beating Wake Forest too. That
was man, what in a shootout? You talking about what defense? We ain't seen no defense. We just seen plays.
Hey, I know Sam Howell was in the cold tub for a whole day after, because he was running that rock like Forrest Gump. He was spinning. He was running people over. That was a hell of a game.
And the running back Todd Chandler, he had a hell of a game. That was his best game since transferring over from Tennessee. So shout out to both of those guys. But Pitt is favored in this game by 6.5. The over under is 74.5. I'm gonna take Pitt. I'm gonna take Pitt in this one. And excuse me, I'm gonna go with the over. Right. Because for some reason Vegas I think they had the game last week, Wake Forest and UNC. It was in the 60s or 70s, and I don't know what they were drinking on. May have been some yak, but that game ended up being high score. Who you got in that one? I'm gonna go with Pitt in this one, and I'm gonna go over.
I'm gonna go with North Carolina, and I'm gonna go over.
Okay, bet.
I'm gonna go North Carolina and over.
Now the next one we have is Notre Dame versus Virginia. Notre Dame is a 5.5 favorite. The over under for that one is 64. This is the game. This is an important game. This is an important game for Cincinnati. This is an important game for Notre Dame, because if Notre Dame just keeps winning, they're sitting there with one loss, waiting for everybody else to mess up and potentially getting back in the swing of things. So I'm gonna go Virginia in this one. I'm gonna go with Virginia, and I'm gonna go with the under. I'm gonna go with the under.
I'm going to go Notre Dame over.
Bet.
I'm going Notre Dame.
There we go, y'all. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who like to bet, those are my picks. Those are Coty's picks. This is episode 12. We thank y'all for joining us each and every week. We'll be back next week. You never know. There's another top 10 team gonna lose this week. We'll find out. Peace.